Hi, I'm David Haynes, and this presentation is on open source software and education. An article in the Washington Times reports that school officials are finding creative ways to cut costs in their budgets by removing break room refrigerators to save on electricity, and going as far as to eliminate band and sports programs altogether. Contrary to taking such drastic measures, educators should consider looking at their technology spending. According to Tim Hart, University of Maine, the high cost of software is the main issue that needs dire attention. Nationwide, schools continue to spend thousands of dollars on software licensing and rely on expensive, pay for the privilege to use, closed source software. Research indicates that open source technologies can provide a positive impact on the school system, but most times educators are unaware that this technology is available. So for educators to make an informed decision about this alternative solution in their classrooms, they first need to be educated on these concepts. What is open source software, and how can it impact their education system? Can an unknown technology really provide a positive impact on education? Open source technology encompasses all things open source. The open in open source is that the source code, the programming language for building applications, is free to view, edit, and redistribute. Meaning if you want to make changes to the way it works, you can edit it and redistribute those changes. The philosophy for this environment is best stated by Dan Woods of Grunwald Associates. It began as software created by a community of people who are dedicated to working together in a highly collaborative and evolutionary way. Now that we've identified what open source technology is and its philosophy, we can now examine how it can impact the education system. To do this, I'm going to give you an example of how open source positively impacted one such school district. Morris Brandon Elementary School of Atlanta, Georgia, was a pilot school in implementing a K-12 Linux Terminal Server Project, or K-12 LTSP. Their original problem was that they didn't have a reliable computing environment to teach from. Their system consisted of aging Windows 95 and 98 PCs. The result of the K-12 LTSP and its impact to the education system is as follows, and I quote, "Student academic performance and productivity has gone up directly as a result of having enough PCs in each class. Students can take accelerated reader tests, immediately reading a book. Previously, they waited over a week to take the test in a computer lab or media center. And a couple of teachers' classes are now in the top 5 in the nation on the first in math web competition, with one first grade teacher's class being first in the nation," end quote. As you can see here, in classrooms kindergarten through 3rd grade, we have 5 student terminals running off of one teacher's workstation. And in classrooms 4th and 5th grade, we have 9 terminals running off of one teacher's workstation, giving them ample amount of computers to cycle their students through. It also shows that they can use up to 5 servers to manage a computer lab of 25 terminals or more. With this model in place, it allows students to have at least 2 hours a day on the computer. One 5th grade class has 38 terminals running off of one teacher's workstation. And that's the school of Morris Brandon Elementary School in Atlanta, Georgia. In conclusion, open source is a community, and educators need to feel comfortable in the open source community. There are challenges to adopting open source, but the benefits to this lower cost alternative must be considered, especially in these tough economic times. For educators to use open source technology in their classrooms, they need to have an understanding of these concepts. What is open source technology? How is it impacting education? And what are its challenges? With this awareness of open source technology, implementing it in schools where it has been deemed necessary, educators can provide a lasting positive impact on their students and their learning environment. With that, I close my presentation. Are there any questions?
You mentioned a proprietary software like Microsoft Windows. What is the difference between using Microsoft or a similar operating system versus an open source operating system in this environment?
This environment is primarily made up of donated PCs, antiquated old PCs running Windows 98, 95. These systems are now being used as workstations and terminals for the students. The software running this is all free software to be installed. Microsoft and other OSs, in order for a classroom of this size, or a school of this size, they would have to spend 20 times the amount of money it took to implement this solution. Any other questions?
Yes. Can you give us a visual of what a student might see in an environment like this one?
Yes, this is currently a Linux desktop that we're seeing here. This is a PDF file. We are able to read this PDF file using Adobe Acrobat Reader in Linux, and we are able to, students would also be able to browse the web using Firefox, which is an open source solution as well, and we are able to open up several documents. As you see here, we can open up Excel, Word from Office 2007 in a program called OpenOffice. And as you can see, I can open up my presentation in OpenOffice running Times New Roman just as I would be in Office 2007. And I have a spreadsheet open that I was able to open up in Office 2007. And as you can see, it's using the same font as Office 2007 would use by default. This is what a student would see and be able to use in Morris Brandon Elementary School in Atlanta, Georgia. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.